All right. So welcome, Joel. Joel's going to be sharing his testimonial of his time in our Steel Mace Vinyasa teacher training. Joel, tell us a little bit about where you're from and what you do.
Hey, Summer, it's good to see you again. My name is Joel. I am a Canadian. I live in Canada right now in Toronto. I have an extensive background in fitness, reaching from the military. It stemmed from a very CrossFit oriented. That's where I started basically my roots of all of my fitness. And it evolved from there. And it's important that I mention, because I know as we speak with Summer, you guys will get to know a little bit about me, that it was a very male, very super guy kind of oriented fitness. And obviously that shapes your mind for good and for bad. Everything has its balance, but it's so important to address the understanding of your weaknesses so I could move forward. And I say that because I really over specialized on a lot of closed hip training. And that's going to be important later on when we open up about how FlowChild has affected my life. But that was me. I had a military background. I still work in the military, doing specific trainings in self-protection. I also, during the pandemic, branched out into different businesses. So I also dabble into real estate and as well into some construction, specifically electrical. And during my time of a lot of turmoil and a lot of trying to find myself, my wonderful wife reached out because we were fans of a couple of videos that we saw of Mark Wildman. And Mark Wildman spoke super highly of somebody he works with. And we said, who is this? You know, and then my wife is like, you got to check this person out. She's amazing. You got to look at her videos. I'm super skeptical when it comes to training because I have seen everything from the top down, from absolute pros to all of the novices. And the first time I saw you explaining everything from your point of view, just this absolute piece of understanding that this person not only knew kinesiology to its profoundness, but also was thoroughly interested in just fixing movement and what that meant for an individual as a whole was something that totally changed my perspective of fitness. You know, I'm like, who is this person? You know, I need to meet Summer and I got to talk to her. So my wife got on that. She wanted to take the course initially. Unfortunately, she doesn't have a big extensive fitness background, but she's working on it right now. And she's looking into later on being an SMV course. So watch out for her. And as well, so we got into it. I spoke with Summer. Immediately, we hit it off. There were so many things we had in common. And when I spoke to you, that's the first time I met you. And then I put a face to the legend kind of thing. And we spoke over the phone and I was just so interested. And that's where my flow child journey kind of began. So that's a little snapshot of who I am.
Awesome. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, I do remember when we were chatting on the phone talking to you about recovery-based training systems and heart rate recovery and HRV specifically. And I just remember you having the bandwidth to have those conversations about flow state. And so I already knew right away that you were going to get it. And it's definitely shown you being in the teacher training cohort and, you know, finishing the work and everything. So yeah, I'm glad to see that it's adding a lot of value to your life. My next question for you is like, what were you looking for when you entered the 100-hour Steel Mace Vinyasa teacher training? Like, what were you hoping to gain out of it? You didn't have a yoga certification initially, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Very
So like,
scary to go into it.
yeah. So what were you looking for and what were you hoping to get out of it when you signed up?
To be honest with you, I was mostly drawn specifically by you. I'm very attracted to people overall and their visions as opposed to the actual work. I'm not saying that that didn't happen as I went through the course, but the initial grab for me was why are people teaching, from what point of view they come from? And I get inspired by people. I get inspired by the way they present themselves, the way they educate, the way they care, mostly the way they love. And that's not necessarily what people understand of how love is and, you know, affection, hugs and all that. I mean it by the way they go, listen, I have something that could truly improve your life. And I just want to show you exactly how that goes. And then the care they take to do that. And I just, as soon as I spoke to you, I said, this person is somebody who hones their craft. Not only do they understand it, but this is magical. So that was my first initial grab. Then I started thinking about, you know, well, what do I really want to do here or be here? And at first I was kind of like, I've done some mace, I've done some clubs, I've done a lot of kettlebells. maybe we can just expand our understanding of the tool, and it kind of was like a simple view at first of maybe I'm just going to get to learn the tool a little better, how I can apply it to certain things. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty good. And that slowly started just enveloping into something totally different. My path went totally different. And it's honestly so important because I have an understanding of things I want to apply in my life, but until you get it from a person who lives it and is the master of that craft, you can never imprint that into yourself. You can only kind of understand it and have kind of that logic behind it, but you can never really make it your own because they have to give that to you. It's kind of like a mantle of, hey, this is our culture. I'm going to give you that introduction into it. That's how I view things as a warrior. I don't ever pretend to if somebody teaches me something, I just say I learned a skill set. I don't ever pretend to know the craft or understand the art or anything like that, because the art comes with a culture. And I think that's the most important thing. And that's really where my goals really changed. And the culture started when I started to hear the word movement practice, and I was like, whoa, okay, we're thinking about fitness in a different way. And you really started evolving everything, because fitness for me, from a military standpoint, was something that you do to achieve a goal. And that goal, you don't really understand it, but it just makes you better. And usually that's associated with some sort of pain, some sort of a struggle, some sort of sacrifice. And then you started introducing all of these concepts that just drove me for a loop. Things like, you got to take care of yourself. There's a 4-day wave, it's okay to have a low. It's okay to have a high. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like and it just opened up a lifestyle for me, which is absolutely different. I have to tell you, like, the way things happen in Flowchala, more than the fitness itself, it changed my life as a person. I view things in the 4-wave cycle now, for work, for myself, emotionally. There's days where I used to feel guilty for having days off. After Flowchala, I was inspired to start up a hobby that I put aside a long time ago. And I said, hey, you know what? Summer always spoke about, taking care of yourself doesn't necessarily mean doing nothing. It means something that's constructive for yourself, even if that is through movement practice, or maybe that day you're just taking care of yourself however you know to do it. And all these things are really strange to me. So in all, the goal started to shift from, I'm going to learn fitness, to now I'm going to change my life and see how fitness can be expressed through the health of my life. And that started to be something totally different. Like, if I was in a mental bad place, now I can see how that was reflected in my training, because I would go so hard that I would physically hurt myself, in the sense of, not that I self-harm, but I would say it in the sense because I practice boxing and other such of arts, and I would push myself to an extent where my body would take something that would be detrimental to it, and I would see it as a benefit. Like, like you're slowing down, you need something to wake you up. And really what I needed was that revelation that you gave me, which was, hey, you just had a high day, so it's okay to come down to a medium, and then it's okay to go low, and then let's step it back up, let's ramp it up. And that lets you not burn yourself out and really enjoy the journey of fitness. So I think by the middle and the end of Flowchala, I was learning how to enjoy fitness, which is totally different, and enjoy it from a lifestyle point of view. And that's really what changed my goals for fitness overall, because now I came to class and it wasn't this whole, we got 20 minutes, we're going to sweat, just, flop on the floor, and, and it's over. No, it was like, we're going to learn something new. I'm going to challenge you in ways you hadn't seen it before. Then we're going to take care of ourselves. There was this whole process of this beautiful lifestyle of first we're taking care of ourselves, then we're learning, then we're pushing ourselves, then we're sweating, then we're coming down. And then it was just amazing, to be honest. There were so many things that I didn't know they were possible, where I felt accomplished. And I also felt a different energy in the sense of how I view the things that I do. There wasn't so much intensity, pain, aggression. Everything started smoothing out in the way that I see things. So, and apart from that, the way that specifically from a sports point of view, when you started talking about yoga from a different perspective, which was, listen, I'm a master yoga teacher. I put in all the hours. However, I'm going to show you something that's true, which is, if you want to practice your asana, however you practice it, which is you want to go hyper flexibility and this is how you express it, go ahead. But I'm also letting you know that it's okay to be athletic. And you can have a warrior two stance that isn't super hyper flexible, but you can be in a stable place where you can still practice this. And that was so important for me because I was so scared of the yoga side. We don't practice flexibility at all. There is no such thing as open hip conditioning where I come from. There was no such thing as, pushing your wrist or anything over a certain extension. I had so much pains in my wrist and things that we did. You taught me how to start to get rid of that and take care of yourself. So really overall it was just taking care, applying that lifestyle, and seeing fitness as part of my life and a reflection of my personal health overall, what I do. So I think that's kind of like a gist of everything.
Awesome. So Joel touched on so many different aspects of the Steel Mace Vinyasa teacher training. And one thing I just want to highlight is when you shared about the methodology of, implementing prime, condition, and flow. And so that's a key component of training is we want to have purposeful priming of creating mobility drills that are integrated into asana that actually map to the nervous system for conditioning. We want those to be synced up and for those to make sense and work together, because these are complex drills we're doing with Mace, and we want to make sure the nervous system is ready and that we've already mapped those motor pathways in the body. And then we condition, learn it round. Then we go into timed rounds, hit intervals, and then we wrap it up and end the class or the practice with some version of flow. So I'd love to kind of segue into the actual modality of Steel Mace Vinyasa. So for you, I know you work with a lot of men. Why is it important for you to educate men on the value of loaded asana conditioning?
Okay, so one of the most important things that I've started to apply. So a lot of the trainings that we do a hands-on training on self-protection, and then we also do a ballistic side of it, which involves weapons training and target training. But one of the things that's actually started to work out, and I've started to slowly sneak it in, kind of how we talked about it, because I don't want to shock the culture. I come from a culture where you got to water things down, so by the time it's in there, they don't really notice it. But one of the things I started getting the guys to do is a lot of guys are against something called dry firing. And dry firing means you're going through the motions of doing something, and you don't necessarily need to go fast. You don't necessarily need to push yourself. All you're doing is just getting into the moment, relaxing yourself, and just moving through the phases. And I told them, I don't want you to do anything that is too crazy. We're going to start warming up. And actually, what I got them to do is I started to show them, our stretch, which is just to point down and get them stretching their shoulders. And I told them to come back up and just spread your arms. I didn't name it anything. I just told them, just keep going there, breathe in. And they all started doing this. And it was really funny because you got to see these guys are big dudes. They're big warriors. And they're sitting there on this line and they're all having this spiritual moment where they're just, getting in the rhythm. And I got to tell you, man, the shooting was absolutely phenomenal. It was fantastic. And looking at that from a who I work with, which are people who, these are great men, they put themselves in the line of fire, protecting a lot of very important people. A lot of people are heroes and where I come from, and nobody really takes care of them. Nobody really talks them, take care of them. So I think they forget that. So to start to instill something so simple as, hey, let's slow down for a second. Let's just clear our minds. Let's just get into movement practice. That's all I want you to do. And seeing that change was really massive. So saying it from the point of view of it was one of the things that I got that from was because the biggest impact for me was when we started to do into flow and then just getting all of your joints moving. It's made a huge difference in my practice. Whenever I don't know what to do or wake up in the morning and I'm like, I just really don't want to work out. I want to, do something. I just go into flow. And it's just, I can't believe nobody had ever taught me that the easiest way to ease yourself into a workout was something as simple as just start moving your wrist, or just start tilting your head back and forth, something like that. And as soon as you're in there, you're like, all right, I got my head moving. Now I can get my shoulders moving. So now we're going to go, and from there, I'm halfway through a workout right now. And it's so good because I've suffered a lot of injuries in places where now I take care of them. I feel a change in the amount of range of motion that I have, more comfortable. And that was, I think, the most impacting part of me for Flowchala in the sense of my movement practice, which is how to get started. Because I feel like a lot of people, if you're somebody who's into fitness all the time, that's great. But I've met a lot of people who are just nowadays in the world are really on a low, tired from work. I got a lot of pressures. I got a lot of things, and just getting them started is really difficult. They don't want to be there. You can sense kind of the drag. And, when we just get in here, and as soon as you tell people, and I've done a few classes where I'm like, all right, guys, even when we're about to start, any of our self protection, I'm like, let's just get our wrists moving. And everybody just goes, that seems easy enough. I'll trade that. It's like 25 cents. These are easy. And by then they don't know. You already have them. I'm like, ooh, I already have them in Summer's movements. She already taught me. Little do they know. They don't know anything right now, and we get them moving. And by the end of it, these guys are heated up from just going into flow. So that was beautiful. And I've honestly taken everything you've taught me and really gone down into applying it and just saying, okay, we can go into flow, then we can have a teach it, learn it round, and then apply it. Has been amazing for me as well. That's something that I didn't take into perspective. So important for fitness, like so how many times did I rush into a movement because I saw it on YouTube or someone taught it to me or something, and I'm just halfway through adrenaline rush doing a move that I've never done before, and maybe risking the health of my body because I didn't take the time to say, let's learn it, then let's try it out, see how good are we, can we do it, can we balance. And the beautiful thing about it was something that you taught me, which was you can always regress. There's always regression. You can always come back. There's never, oh, I can't do this. No problem. We can regress. We can bring it back. I love that. And then you just go hard on the conditioning round. You do your best. And at the end, it was just beautiful because now that you're primed, doing a movement after you're primed is so amazing. It just feels like you've prepared your body to now see the effect you want to see. And I feel like that was something that was missing in my practice, which is I did this, but for what reason? If I did have a reason, you should always be able to apply that principle, And for yoga practitioner, it was the fact that if I load my muscles in a stance, I should be better at that asana by the end of it. That's the purpose of why I'm doing that. I want to improve in my asana and be better at it. For me, the same way for them, I said, okay, guys, if we can prime ourselves, that means you can be better, you can be faster, and you can be more effective. So that's kind of the things that I took away from it. And I loved it. It's been absolutely great.
Well, it's awesome to hear how you're adapting it to the clients you work with and sneaking it in and disguising yoga as movement training or movement practice or priming, because it's true. A lot of times people really have an aversion to yoga for many, many reasons. But think of yoga as it's just, a form of different shapes that you're holding in your body that allow you to access full range of motion. And, still Mace Vinyasa can be an entry point to develop a stronger yoga practice, or it can just be a standalone cross-training mobility practice. We don't even ever have to call it yoga. It's just functional movement training that happens to look a little bit like yoga with a mace.
That's great, yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I'd love to chat with you about your takeaways from the program design aspect of SMV. So a lot of people come to our teacher training. We're really ramping it up this year, and people are coming from mostly a yoga background or personal training background. And this idea of program design is super foreign to our yoga instructors, as well as to even to trainers, because trainers are often used to just counting reps, or like you said, just doing super hard workouts and pushing pedal to the metal and going, the more sweat, the better, the more pain, no gain. So what were some of your biggest takeaways around our approach to program design? And specifically, you could even share about the program that you designed, if that is relevant.
Yeah. So one of the biggest things, to be honest with you, program design from a point of fitness was never something I really thought about, only because when we work out, it's one of those, what haven't you done? Let's just do it. And there's really isn't a flow and understanding of it. And I think that's what I was talking about before, which was that you don't have a goal or a purpose in mind, you're really going nowhere really fast. And I think that's a big thing in our community, which is just as long as you feel sore the next day, you did good, and I feel like that's just such a myth. It's not true at all. It's just all of these macho myths that I have that I personally am facing in the sense of men. And a lot of the men that I've been working out with that are my very close friends are starting to really see the change in understanding on how to work out. You don't need to be lifting the heaviest, most ridiculous weight and just being dumb about it and pumping out as many reps as that guy says until, I heard people who have program designs which are just like, okay, we're going to do 500 push-ups. That's your workout of the day. And I'm like, you gotta think about, like, what's your goal here? Like, that's just it's a pride workout. You're just trying to prove you can do 500. You certainly don't need 500 push-ups to improve. Could you do them? Maybe. Where's your angle? Explain it to me. That's really where I think my mind was at a lot of times. So when I met you and you started to explain about the program design, the purpose behind it, like, okay, what does your client feel? Are they sitting all day? Are they standing all day? Are they lifting big things? Do they have back problems? I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. I've never thought about that. I haven't even asked what this person feels like. Hey, do you have a lot of shoulder pain? Maybe it's because you don't have shoulder mobility. Maybe we should work on that. And I love the fact that the first aspect of it was identifying your client. Like, do you even know who you're working for? Do you even know what they need? Because maybe they don't need what you think you need, or maybe they don't need that generic list of YouTube, curls, squats, and whatever. Because everybody goes, well, they're functional movements. Everyone needs them. I'm like, don't get me wrong. Work out, move. You have to burn calories. But why can't we ask ourselves, what moves am I doing that are affecting my life? And then also you started speaking about something that was so profound to me, which was compensation patterns, and the fact that people do things that really change our body because our body's so smart that we don't really know how smart it is. And we default from that and we say, okay, I'm doing this all day. Your body's thinking, okay, since we're doing this all day, I'm going to change the way I behave so that this, whatever we do, is easier. But that comes at a consequence of disbalance in our body. And then people start getting pains and all sorts of things that don't matter. And I remember you giving the example of volleyball and you jumping off one leg. And I started to understand I have a serious problem of shoulder mobility. And that all comes from just having a very, very closed kind of body image. And that all comes from just safety. I think that's, and I started to explore myself a little bit more because I really like the way that you said our body expresses the traumas that we have. And they don't necessarily need to be the traumas that people understand trauma to be. Because I think when I use the word trauma, people think that somebody beat you with a stick or something. It's like, it's not that. It's just the way you forced your body to behave, because that is the most safe way to be, and a lot of the things that we do is very closed, very safe. So when we started opening up and doing a lot of open movements, there was a big change in my life in the sense of just even breathing, the way that I just express, the way that I move. Like, I used to stand with a lot of closed shoulders, and now there's a big change in that. And that came from the first thing, which was, if you're going to design a program, I started looking at myself and I said, what do I need to do? I need to open up. And I think that's one of the most important things. And then the beauty about it was, okay, guys, now that we understand who our client is, you showed us just the easiest thing, which was, we have all these functional movements. We have a bucket list, and I'm sure you're going to show everybody who does your program. I don't want to give it away, but you can just pick out these, you just got to pluck them out, like making a meal. I got my vegetables, I got my meat, I got my protein, whatever. And you just make this meal for this person. And I was like, this is so easy. Like, how did I not even see how easy it is to make an effective program? I think that's really what we're aiming for, which is not just a program, it's an effective program, because I'm looking to change the way this person's body behaves and moves in the world, and that it expresses the health they want to express, and a lot of the times we don't see it that way. If somebody who's closed off, why am I going to keep applying pressure to this closed off posture? Why am I not opening this person up? So I think the most important point from that was identifying your client, just really understanding their compensation patterns. What have they done that has affected their body? And then lastly, just saying, okay, how can we apply all of these amazing movements to make this client change for the better? Not just get fitter, and quote unquote, but just really change their movement practice and who they are.
Awesome. I'm so glad you brought up compensation patterns in there, because that was my next question was, what was your takeaway from understanding compensation patterns? And I think that's one of the things I really like to educate yoga instructors and personal trainers on is, to understand how we do one thing is how we do everything, and our body eventually will adapt to the forces placed upon it in certain areas. So if you sit cross-legged always with your right side crossing over the left, or if you always pick up your child on the right side or the car seat on the left side, and you're always, overcompensating on one side of the body, what happens is these asymmetries in the body. And so Steel Mace Vinyasa is truly the antidote for these asymmetries to bring more balance to the body and functional mobility that then can be applied to life as well. Because it's not just what you do in the 3 hours a week that you're training, it's what you do in the other 165 hours a week that really matter. And so, did you have that experience where you started applying this functional movement and compensation patterns work outside of your life as well?
Yes, 100%. I mean, I can't even explain to you how important it was for me to understand that there is compensation patterns, because now I also know how to treat my body in a lot of ways, because now I know how to think. For example, sometimes I experience some pain back here. And usually my thought process was, oh, okay, it's, I pulled a muscle, I did something wrong. But now my thought is different. It goes, what have you been doing this whole week where you've been really off balance? And then I start to train in the opposite direction, and that brings the balance to that. And one of the things which I'd like to make a shout out to her, because I feel like she's an extremely valuable piece to Flow Child as well, was Brooks, her foundation training. The way when I did foundations training, which is I think one of the things that blew away my masculinity, let's say, for instance, not in the wrong sense, but in the wrong sense of the macho-ness, where it goes, you think you're really strong until somebody puts you in this position where you think you're just like, what is this? This isn't going to do anything. And all of a sudden you're shaking and you can't even hold it. And I'm like, Brooks, what are you doing? And that for me was just mind blowing. When somebody can put me in my place in the sense of my pride, I really enjoy that. I feel like it's the best experience ever, because dying to ego is the best way to improve in life. I really do believe that, but it has to be genuine, and someone just needs to put you in your place. And the best way to do that is when they get something so impressive like that. And the reason I mention that is because one of the biggest compensation patterns I have is from all the weight that I used to have on my back and so on. I have internal rotation of my knees and as well on my feet. So when Brooks was talking about having a piece of paper in between and kind of bringing that extra strength to the inner thighs, wow, I learned that I honestly don't have proper balance in my legs. And maybe that's why I feel a lot of pains in my hips and all sorts of things that I have to keep exploring. But I think it was very touching too, because that was my true aha moment for understanding when you said, what's your compensation pattern? What has really been affecting your life? Because there's certain ones where people kind of just work through it. Like, I have an elbow pain. Oh, that's fine. I just, but this one was a really big one for me, because I understood, hey, if you can't hold a position for more than 2 seconds, there's a serious issue. You have to look into why there's such a weak point in your body, and maybe that's affecting the way you live. And for me, my legs are the most important thing. If you're not taking care of something to use every day, then what's the point in working out? I've been doing all kinds of weights and I can't do that. So I love the fact that people who are working with you, who represent you, think like you, they understand, they're taken care of. It's just, your team is awesome. And I did a workout where I worked with, I think it was Rosanna. I'm pretty sure it
Oh,
was.
Roxanne.
Roxanne, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry, Roxanne, for saying your name wrong, because you're honestly an inspiration. Roxanne, we went into a workout and I'm like, okay, I'm here. It was about 3 of us. And she's like, you ready to sweat? And I was like, I don't know. In my mind, I was like, I'm going to go do a workout after this anyways. I was kind of skeptical. This was in the first weeks of doing the virtual. Oh man, we did a workout and it was so unreal. I couldn't stand up afterwards at the end of it, because it was awesome, because there was movements that she was expressing, but she goes, you can take them as hard as you want. That's what she told me. She's like, if you really want to push for it, you push for it as hard as you can in that Tabata, whatever your Tabata is, and at that moment, I think we were doing AMRAP for one of them. And it was just, we were pushing through it, and it was awesome. She showed us a new movement, and I was blown away. I was blown away by the fact that I had just gotten my butt kicked by a not even a 10-minute workout when I used to spend hours at the gym doing something. And on top of that, the feeling of finishing the workout and feeling better than when you started it was like a for me. It just, my mind was in another place because usually I felt like crap. And that was the good thing, like you feel too pushed over the limit. You're kind of in this fight or flight stage. You're have an accelerated heartbeat. You start kind of, there isn't enough blood coming to you because you push yourself so hard. I felt great. I felt so good because it was just taking in the proper manner. We came down slow. The decomp was amazing. I loved it. And yeah, I mean, I'm just thoroughly impressed overall for all of it. But my compensation patterns, I think that was a big thing to understand. Hey, listen, you've done things wrong for some part of your life. And I think that's the hardest part for fitness people to understand. I think deep inside, when someone says compensation pattern, some part of us in our ego says, you're telling me I did things wrong. And I think there's a small step in there for us to say, yeah, you did, and you got to accept the fact that there's a better way to do it. And I feel like that's what I love about FlowChala, that it's challenges people where they don't think they're being challenged in the deeper part of their soul, of saying, we're not here to just make you sweat, because I think that's what people are used to in workouts. Oh, I'm just here to work out, and just, they're like, no, no, no. We're going to put you in a really uncomfortable state where you're going to start to learn that this area of your life needs to change, and you got to work for it to change it. Maybe you're a person who finds it really hard to hold a mace in a flag position, and you're like, do I have weak arms? You know what I mean? And that's not attacking you as a person. You need to understand, no, maybe I've just haven't trained in a way where I understand what functional training is, and that for me was a big thing. Just holding the mace out for a weight where it was challenging to me, I started feeling a lot of weight there. And I said, hold on a second. I think I have pretty strong arms. I mean, I've been around, I've been working out, but then I started to realize that a lot of the weights when they train in the gym and all things that you're doing, you're just swinging weights around. You're not really thinking about what you're doing. You're not doing functional training. So at the end of the day, you're just kind of traversing weight through space. And then all of a sudden I was here. And the big thing about that was, you're like, all right, now hold. I was like, what do you mean hold? No, this is a rep. And then we come back and you're like, no, just hold this position and then just get comfortable in it. And I was like, not okay, because this is a lot of weight. And, and ego started here, and then, arm is shaking. And I don't know if it was you that you saw me or something, but you're like, it's okay to regress. We can just bring it back here if it's okay. And that was hard for me. It was a mental battle to be like, I don't want to bring it back. But then I realized that it's okay to do that, because I'm not here to put out a rep. I'm here to find my happiness in this position. Where am I happy? I'm adjusting to it. And it's just this mindset, this battle of ego, trying to be the best and so on. I didn't find that in FlowChala. And I love that. Everybody was there to be the best version of themselves. And I think that's so important when you work out, because it creates an environment where other people can improve and you can improve as well. And I love that.
Well, you just had touched on about 3 of our mottos at FlowChala. Train to be the best version of yourself, regress, and lift others up. That's really what we're all about. So I think you got a lot from kind of hanging out with us for a while. Makes me want to get you back into some live classes here too. So I might have to hook you up with a month of training after this.
Sounds good.
Brooke's doing 2 classes a week nowadays. So what you touched on when you were talking about the regressions, I just want to zoom into this for a bit, because I think you're using a lot of the language that we use in the teacher training. I think it's great for us to expose potential teacher training candidates to this, because a lot of folks that watch these, they just want to get a firsthand account of like what it's like to be in the training. So when Joel was sharing about having the steel mace in the modified side flag position with the bent arm versus a straight arm, what he was talking about, why that was so hard with just a 7-pound steel mace, is because he was challenging the rotator cuff muscles along with the lat activation, which comes from doing shoulder pack and then serratus anterior. And so what I've seen from coaching brand new people in our studio for the past 10 plus years is generally most instructors omit the torque, the aspect of torque, of how do we create maximum stability within the joint and fire all of the rotator cuff muscles in conjunction with those big prime movers, the lats and the serratus. And then how do we then connect that to the full trifecta of the deep inner core musculature and the glutes? So this is just a key, concept or theory that we see again and again consistently, is that there is a big gap in traditional or conventional lifting, where we're not recruiting the trifecta to work, in that functional way. So I just thank you for bringing that up. And yeah, we could nerd out about flow science all day.
Of course, yes.
But I have one other question for you, and then we'll get closer to the end of this interview. So my question to you is around your learning of like somatics and learning about the nervous system. What was your like baseline understanding when you started, and then what did you gain going through the teacher training specifically around nervous system arousal, parasympathetic, sympathetic, and how to manage that in a training environment?
Okay, well, I'm pretty, let's say I have a deeper knowledge of the parasympathetic, sympathetic overall, just only because we use it to our advantage when I teach self-protection. But I had never seen it from a standpoint of, I think what really changed for me, my perspective of seeing something and learning it. Let me rephrase that. When you have learned something, the only way to relearn something is to change your perspective on it. So everybody understands how to, let's say, go upstairs. You climb stairs, you just go up with your legs. But if you look at stairs differently, everybody looks at the stairs differently. If you look at it as, this is a moment for me to change my life because I'm going from a lower to a higher place, all of a sudden stairs can become a life-changing experience for you, So for me, I think the biggest thing about that was understanding that when my nervous system is connected to the expression of who I am in my body, and they can't be separated. So when I'm expressing who I am and what I am feeling, my nervous system is reflecting that in a deeper sense. And if I disregard that, then I'm disregarding a part of training and health that is going to be detrimental to my overall health. And I think it was so important to understand that, because I thought that when you had a low day, it just meant you had to push harder. You just had to get out of it. But shocking yourself into that is creating patterns of trauma in your nervous system that eventually show up in your body, and they can show up in many ways. For me personally, I've seen that a lot of the traumas that I have in my body have shown up as fear in certain movements, and that fear in those certain movements create a proneness to injury. And I say that because, for example, my wrists have been through a lot of the things that I do. And when you're relaxed, this is a principle from another art that I study, and I know that we spoke about it, which was a Russian martial art called Systema. But there's a science truth to this, which is when your body's relaxed, it's very much less prone to injury. When you bring a lot of tension to certain areas, unnecessary tension, the body can be more prone to injury. So I think what I understood from the nervous system was, if you're not monitoring how you feel, you may be feeling unnecessary stresses within yourself that if you add on by training in a way where you shouldn't do it that way, or shouldn't be pushing yourself to that limit, now it's becoming detrimental to your training overall. And I think that's so important also for your clients and the people that get to know Flowchala, which is a skill set that I think everybody should know, which is, where's my client at in their nervous system, let's say, analysis, for lack of words, because I don't really know how we would name it. But this is where we started getting into the whoop, understanding our 4-day wave, and really understanding where someone was and related to that. And I think one of the coolest things for that for me was understanding that the more I took care and more consciously I was aware of the traumas in my body from a nervous system perspective, when I started to change that and my nervous system started to become less, how do I say it? Less tense, because there isn't really that word, but you can feel when you're nervously at a point where you're almost at a breaking point because you're not as calm as you should be. It was easier to get into flow state. And I feel like that's a big key to that, because when we speak of it in Flowchala, when we're in the training, I think that the biggest aha for people is when they try to understand flow state, because I think that was like the mystical aspect of the Flowchala and the SMV. We kept speaking about, we got to get into flow state. There's this amazing state that you're in when you're doing this and so on. And I think people are searching for that, because if you can be in flow state most or all of the time when you're training, then your life changes in absolute. And I think one of the keys to that was that small detail, which was, hey, you must understand that your body's directly connected to your nervous system, and your nervous system has memory, and it imprints the ways and the traumas that you put into your body, depending on what's happened, what you do, how you express yourself, who you are. So we need to correlate the health physically of your body to your nervous system and whatever that means to you. And I know that in the I guess the most practical aspect of the way you taught it was if we monitor our nervous system, then we can have a better understanding of where we're at, and therefore we can improve on it, you know? So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's what I took away from it.
Yeah, no, it's just like broadening our skill set as trainers to actually dialogue about this. And like the easiest way to help somebody understand, regulation is breath. And so we have these different scales of breath that we use when we train. We want to get people out of fear reactive breath. The next progression is getting them into force level breath, where they're breathing out in both phases of the exercise, then power breath and discipline, then flow. So there's like a whole system of, allowing somebody to learn these skills of better self-regulation. And I think that's what you're talking about with Roxanne's class. It's like you can go to a really hard class and feel amazing afterwards because you had these different levels of breath to upshift and downshift in during your workout, which that's what kind of differentiates like a typical CrossFit HIIT workout, which you're bringing your nervous system into a state of sympathetic arousal, high cortisol, high adrenaline, whereas we're trying to keep you in that recovery zone when you're training, we want you to always be training the parasympathetic nervous system in recovery. Yeah, good times. All right, so last two questions. What did you think about the people that were in your cohort? Because you had quite a big cohort, as I recall. Like, what are the types of people that you're spending time with in office hours and movement labs and things like that?
I think it's one of the cool things about the human dynamic is that it doesn't change wherever you go, and what doesn't change is that everything's always different. That's what we always say. So no matter where you are with human beings in themselves, we're like the rainbow, it's just a variety of every shade of color from up and down, because everybody has the way they express themselves. Everybody has their own unique personality. Everybody has their temper. Everybody has their logical point of views to see it. And I think one of the most important things is the decision you make to either accept that or deny that. And I feel like the people who kind of were absent to accept the fact that everybody had a way of viewing it and there's a value in how they view it, had a tougher time, kind of gaining value from that. But as it went along, it's really funny because there's this beautiful thing about human dynamics, especially for us, is that the more time you spent with somebody, regardless of whether you click or you don't click, in the back of your head, you kind of go, we're family now. So we're just going to have to duke it out to see how we're going to discuss this, And it was really funny because, you'd have these little timeouts with people who were super fun in the sense of like they connect with the way you express things. You're vivid, let's this, that. And then you go into another one and you have this person who's like, no, we're doing it this way. And it's like, no, we're doing it this way. And I love the fact that we got to do that because it got to expose us also to another side of coaching. Which was by the end of it, we had all these people just kind of expressing who they were. And it gave you a different sense of how to see and view human beings as a whole as a coach. And I really loved the fact that there were some people that had trouble in the sense of expressing what they wanted to express, and we helped them to get there. And I know there was two people that were kind of going through something, I guess, and it was kind of difficult for them to get past a certain point of view. And there was never a moment, even from people who might have said, oh, this person's not going to be helpful in this moment, even they were helpful. So I feel like there was this beautiful thing where everybody started becoming cohesive and helpful because we had a unique goal. And that unique goal was that we understood that nobody's here to be the best. We're here to learn something to change our lives and apply it amazingly to however we can to the people around us. And it was super cool, especially for me to be accepted into the circle. I felt as a guy, I feel vulnerable in the sense of, I'm coming in from kind of like the ramble style life, and I'm talking to people who are dancers, and some people were yoga practitioners, and I was like, oh no, we're not going to have anything in common. This is going to be so bad. And it was amazing. These people were I still follow them on Instagram. I still send likes to them, and I do all kinds of things to follow them because they're an inspiration to me. You know, the way they spoke to me, the advice they gave me, the way they presented themselves was an inspiration to me as well, because I know people were there who were much older than I would have ever thought. And I was like, no way that you're in here. And they're like, yeah, that's an inspiration for me, because I feel like nowadays an elderly person is associated with weakness and lack of health. And I really feel like that needs to change, because there are so many people who are so amazing. And in Flow Chala, to see them moving, picking up a mace, going, being stronger than I was, because they did workouts that, you know, where I was kind of looking up at the screen and I'm like, how is she still going? You know, like it was crazy. And I was like, wow, an inspiration for me, because I like to look at my future brightly like that. Like, why can't I be an extremely healthy human being later on in my life? And that was an inspiration for me. You know, at the same time, there's people who were younger than me, and they were also struggling in things that I was like, wow, you know, like it's so good just to see everybody fighting to get to a point where there's this amazing reward. And that amazing reward was, we're all in this together, and we're trying to figure out how to move better so that our life can improve. And the best thing about it was that at the end, when we all shared how our life changed, it was so inspirational, because you wouldn't have imagined that unless that person told you that's what was where they were coming from. So I love the fact of everybody who was there. And it was really cool that everybody was from around the world. We had people who were in classes at like 3 in the morning. And we were like, you know, you could go to bed and it's okay. And he's like, no, I'm powering through this. And it's like, okay, you got it, man. And so it was really cool. I love the fact that it was all over I really like that sense, that it was kind of like a snapshot of the world kind of uniting for something they all understood, which was a better movement practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much for reflecting on that. Lots of memories for sure.
That's it.
So my final question is, what would you tell somebody that's on the fence about investing in themselves to do this teacher training? What would you tell them now, knowing what it's like to graduate and
Wow.
finish your program, and have all this new knowledge?
I think, well, I don't want to be a salesman, because that's not what I'm at. So I want everybody to understand. Summer knows me, and she's given me a lot of confidence to speak. So it's okay in the sense of what I'm about to say. But well, one of the first things that I say is, I have been around the world. I do have the credentials. If anybody was to challenge me and they would go for pound for what I've seen, the instructors I've seen, the people that I've seen, there's very few people in the world who could put up the papers to kind of discuss it. And the reason I say that is because, and this is to toot your horn. Most people say not to toot your horn, but it is to toot your horn. Summer, you are by far the most impressive trainer I've ever met in my life. By far, yeah, it's amazing. You are from not only the way you behave as a human being, by the way you inspire with the humility of who you are. Because I feel like those, even though people don't think that's important, it is important. You can be a fake trainer. You can be a person who, is just out there for the money, who's just out there to establish a market. And I'm sure there's people out there who can make tons of money doing that. And if you wanted to, you could exploit your market and do that. And you've never, ever had a sense of doing that at all. I've never felt that from any of your programs, from you yourself, the way you teach. On top of that, when people get to meet you, you're actually there for them. And I feel like I'm speaking from 2 points of view: value as a human being, and also for people who are critical in the sense of, well, where am I going to put my money? Is this even going to be worth it? It's like, guys, I was at a stage where I was in the most difficult moment in my life. And I reached out to Summer more than once, asking her, hey, I can't do this. How am I going to get through this? And the only thing that I received was, Joel, it's okay. We'll figure it out. Let's just do this. That for me is worth more than any amount of money you could ever pay, because there's so many programs where you've been to where you know what happens when you go to someone, you say, I can't do this. They go, well, good luck, like you might as well just, walk out and this is it for you, kind of thing. And because what I understood there was, okay, I'm in here because she cares to change me as an individual. She doesn't care about what I've paid, what I've done to get in. And I feel like that's the biggest fear for people when they get into programs. So I first want to speak to that, to guys, if you come into this, you're coming into a program where Summer personally and all of her amazing team, because Everybody blew me away. Xander was an amazing trainer. The patience, the love, every time I would talk to him. So the value that you're getting for people actually being there for the first time in any course that you'll take online is real. Because there's a lot of places where you know how it goes. You pay a certain amount of money and here's your videos, watch them at home and make it happen. That's not what happens here. The second thing that I think is so important for something like this is people don't know what fitness and movement is. They really don't. And I didn't either. You have to learn what it means to have a healthy body overall. And it starts here. There's so many aspects of it. I don't want to say that in Flowchala is the solution to everything, because health is an overall thing that amasses so many areas. You have your mental health, you have your physical health, you have your spiritual health. But it is one of the most important pillars, I would say, to start to understand how to begin to change yourself in a way that betters you. And that starts from understanding that fitness is not just fitness, it's a movement practice you need to change. There needs to be a community that's interested in it. And there's also more to it than just, physical aspect. I think that was a big thing for me. A big thing for me, and I want to speak to this very respectfully, is that in Flowchala, I saw a lot of people with very fit and very strong human beings that if you were to look at them from the commercialized point of view of what body image is nowadays, what they're selling out there, people would say, oh, that person is no good. That's not it. And I want to change that because I speak to that from a male perspective, which is there's this thing about having gigantic muscles and looking like, Rambo 4 that for some reason speaks health. Guys, that's not health at all. I saw people who were far healthier than me as human beings overall, and it broke this image that I had. And that's important to cure mental health. And I think that's very important for people because I struggled with that a lot myself as a male. You have to break this thing where we have to look like something. That's not true. I think what changed in Flowchala was I changed my understanding of I have to look like something to I have to move like something. And so then my mindset went from I want to look like this to I want to move like Summer. Every time I saw a video of Summer, I want to move like her. I want to move like that. I want to be able to do Skandasana like that. I want to be able to pistol squat like her. Like those things started to impress me. When you get to change that mindset, I feel like your life of fitness and your journey of it is a whole different one because now you're not chasing this false, really detrimental dream of looks, but you're now chasing health overall. And I think that's where you embody Summer. To me, I come from a warrior culture, but I know that if we were to go back 1,000 years, I want you beside my tribe holding a spear and a shield, marching down with me. You be that girl. And I feel like that's what everybody should be. Everybody should feel like we're a family, that we're all in this battle together. It's a different battle. We're not here fighting with swords and so on, but it's a battle of your family, yourself, your job, who you are. And I feel like this program is what every single person needs to start exploring how to change their life so that they can improve their daily life in every single way possible. And that starts with how you move. If you can move better, then you can think better, then you can behave better, and then you can act better, and then you can feel better. And then that's just the evolution of everything you have to do. And I feel like people don't know how to move, and this is where you learn it. So guys, if any of you have any complaints after you take this course, take it up with me. I got people all around the world, and they'll be happy to refund you and ask you a few questions as to why you didn't like Summer. No, I'm just totally joking. But guys, it's a full recommendation. I love you, Summer. I think you're an absolute inspiration. I really want you to understand that. I'll be around. I know that many people will come along, but I honestly want to say that I want to put that out for the internet, for anybody who watches this. You deserve every single praise, pound for pound, for the trainer that you are. And I know that someday that will come. Someday you will be recognized for true fitness trainers that change the world, as opposed to all of these commercialized trainers who are just out there to make money. And you will change the world one bit at a time. And I know that that's going to happen. That's going to start with you changing my life. I know that you changed other lives, and I need to continue changing lives. And if anybody needs to hear it from me, you got me from a phone call away, and I'd be more than happy to let them know.
That's so awesome. Man, wow. Thank you so much for all of your praises. And I'm just floored too, because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a virtual training. And like Joel and I have never actually been in a physical room together. And so I just want to also shout out anybody that's hesitant to do the training because it's just a virtual training. Think twice about it, because this is really valuable information that you can take into your own practice to change your own life and to change your own clients' lives. And now we're taking it out, since we're out of that pandemic. Like when we started the teacher training, I think Joel enrolled still in the middle of pandemic. And now we're doing these like in-person workshops of warrior training. And I'm seeing in a 2.5 day workshop format and in a 5-day, 6-day retreat format, people are literally leaving a different person. Like it's crazy to watch. Like if you would have told me this 10 years ago, that this is the result of pairing the warrior training and the staff fighting with clubs and mace, I never would have believed you. But I see people's posture change. They carry themselves differently. They speak differently. Their eye contact, polyvagal nerve network is different. Their OODA loop training, observe, orient, decide, act. Like it's all in there, but you just got to take the first steps. And I think training online, like what a gift to be able to do this at home and to not have to quit your day job to come and do a 2-month intensive with me. It's like it just fits right into your life seamlessly if you're willing to do it.
Agreed. Yeah.
So Joel, where can we find you? Just give us your city, like what your plans are for Still Mace Vinyasa, and any websites or things we should keep an eye out for.
So Still Mace Vinyasa, right now we are working on coming out to the public. Right now I work in a private sector, as I told Summer, for some assets. So we don't have that. However, the website that will be coming out is called fightlikeacanadian.com. That will be who we are. So all my contacts will be there. I'll be coming out shortly. So if you ever want to reach out to me, talk to me, or this especially goes out, and I'm not saying that the ladies can't, because they obviously can. It's just that I represent only what I know, and only what I know is where I come from. And I'm trying to get my brothers into understanding that they can also be warriors, and that looks differently. It looks into taking care of yourself, and just, we've been working through a lot of different stuff. So if you're a guy who's out there who goes, Joel, I came across this on YouTube. I really like Summer, but I feel like I don't know if I can do it. I feel alone. Hey, guy, give me an email, give me a shout, and I can tell you that you're in good hands, because if you think I can kick your butt, Summer can do it 10 times over. So don't worry about it. You're going to have the greatest time of your life. And anybody out there who's hesitant, do it. I honestly say it, just do it. You won't regret a single. There's certain things in life that are investments forever. And I think I'll close with this. I had my uncle. He died a long time ago. My uncle, he had a thick accent, and he used to tell me, he used to say, Joel, do you know why buying an ice cream is the best investment of life? And I told him, I'm like, no, I don't know, uncle. He goes, well, no. And he would say that every time. I was very little when he would buy it. We'd go out again. He was a millionaire, by the way, a very rich man back in my country. And he used to come out again. And every time we buy an ice cream, sit down at this little bench. He used to go, do you know why buying ice cream is the best investment ever? And my uncle died. And later on, I went out to my aunt and I asked her, I said, do you, aunt, why would uncle say that, And she came up to me and she said, because the best investment you can ever make in life is an investment in yourself. And what I understood from that was that him buying an ice cream wasn't really the investment. The investment was that he got to spend time with me. That's what he valued the most. So those 5 minutes that we would eat ice cream was the best investment ever. And I think for anybody who's buying this, buying that, because there's so many things that we buy, make the first investment in yourself. Take a moment to do this, take a leap, because we spend useless amounts of money on so many things we don't need. This is the first time you'll do an investment where you are going to change your life, the way you move, the way you express yourself. And I guarantee you, you will never look back and think twice about why you did it. It's only the best thing that you can do.
Awesome. And are you going to be coaching out of Ontario, like virtually, or just remind me
Yes.
city?
I'm gonna be, so right now I'm in Toronto, Canada. I am in the city of Thornhill. If you want to email me, you can email me at joel.castano@hotmail.com just to get my coordinates. I will be coming out with a lot more social media later on for actual training. We're just trying to gear in for how we're going to do that. But if you're interested in any type of Mace Flow or any of the training that Summer that you've seen her do, or even if you want to contact information through Summer to me because you're not sure how to get to her, just email me to that. That's joel.castano@hotmail.com. Thank you.
Awesome. And then what's your Instagram too, so we can follow you there as well?
The Instagram right now is Fight Like a Canadian.
Nice.
And it's at Fight Like a Canadian, and that's where we're starting off with our Instagram right now. We haven't loaded anything up. We're just starting off with trying to load all that stuff up, but you can definitely message me there, and things are going to be going off now that the year's changed, that more things are open and we can actually mobilize on it.
Sweet. Well, I'm super excited to see what you're putting out. I know you've got lots of businesses and projects that you're doing, and I know you like to marinate on things and really digest them, but I look forward to seeing what you put out, and I look forward to training with you in the future in person as well. Thanks so much,
Yes.
Joel. It's been awesome to
Awesome.
have you.
You're most welcome, Summer.
Take care.
Take care, Summer.